unto you. You are asked now by your country, perhaps by your Creator, to stand on one side or another. You are asked now to stand not on a question of politics, not a question of religion, not on a question of gay or straight. You are asked now to stand on a question of love. All you need to do is stand and let the tiny ember of love meet its own fate.
What do you make of his use of Jesus' words, do unto others as you would have them do unto you?
Well, obviously, Jesus didn't mean that what we ought to be doing is giving freedom to others, to encouraging other people to do something that's bad, even if we want it for ourselves. We can mistakenly want bad things for ourselves, but that isn't. But that wouldn't be something that would receive Jesus' his approval. Because the New Testament is absolutely thick with things, is even in the teachings of Jesus, that we should not be doing. And so it isn't as if there is this unqualified ethic that Jesus is offering, simply do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Part of my response to Keith Olberman could be, well, you know what? Knowing what I know, I would not want, if I were a same-sex if I was in a same-sex relationship, I would not want you to extend the same definition of marriage to my relationship as to a heterosexual relationship. I would not want that because I don't think that would be good for society. I have all of the same rights, privileges, and protections that heterosexual couples have, but to retool society is not a good thing. So even if I were homosexual, I would say I don't want this. And there are homosexuals who do this. Who are in favor of things like Prop 8, even though they count themselves among the homosexuals. So it isn't clear that simply citing Jesus' statement is going to get for him what he wants. In any event, you can't cite Jesus against the morality that Jesus himself proposed. He told the woman, go and sin no more, who was caught in adultery, 1 Corinthians 13, which is the love chapter, which I saw in the San Francisco paper, quote, with regards to Prop 8, that is, quote, on behalf of the homosexual view, the greatest of these is love. That passage says love does not rejoice in unrighteousness. When love rejoices in that which is wrong, then it is not real love. It is misguided passion or misguided sentiment, but it's not really love. Even love has to be properly informed. And what Keith Olberman is doing is he's just simply playing on emotions at this particular point, and trying to argue that if you don't, that the loving thing is to acknowledge these relationships, and if you don't, then somehow you are not letting the spark of love grow. I mean, this is nonsense, though. These relationships that same-sex couples have, they have been celebrating them for years as wonderful and satisfying and fully enriched by their love for one another. Nobody is stopping anyone from loving. That's the first point. The second point is marriage isn't about love. Ask any married person. It isn't about love. C.S. Lewis makes the point that when you get married, you make a commitment to stay together even when love isn't there. Because if it was just about love and you stayed in love, you wouldn't need the vow. This demonstrates that marriages are about something deeper and more profound than just merely sentiment. And in fact, if marriage were about love, there'd be millions of people around the globe who thought they were married and they're not. Frankly, when he intimates that government should get out of the private business of loving, I agree with him. If same-sex couples don't want the government weighing in on their relationships, they shouldn't be demanding that a government pass laws to approve their relationships. My view is simply this: let the government stay out of those relationships that aren't central and vital to society. Now, and here's another point, but I don't know how much time we have left. Do I got about a minute and a half to make another statement on this, Todd?
Yeah, how about a minute?
Okay, a minute. Marriage is a word that is used to describe the long-term natural unions between a man and a woman, and that this union forms the foundational unit of civilization called family. Now, look, no other human relationship does that. That's why other relationships have been given other words to describe them, like friends or lovers or partners or domestic partners. These terms do not demean or diminish those relationships in any way, Todd. It merely recognizes the different nature of these relationships and the distinct function each of them has in the culture as a whole. And if we did not have marriage between a husband and a wife, a man and a woman, as something distinct from everything else, this would undermine culture, because that relationship as a group, as a rule, by nature, and I think by design, produces something no other relationship does, and that is the next generation. And so the government has an interest in protecting it and rewarding it and privileging it. All the rest of the relationships, the government could say, well, whatever, fine, hands off. That's what is being denied here. Same-sex couples want the government, that is the people, to give public approval to their relationships as if they were heterosexual relationships. And they are not. They don't fulfill the same function. And that's why it's vital for us to keep them distinct.
Okay, we only have a few minutes left. We have a couple email to deal with, so let's keep our response brief.
Okay.
Matt in Nebraska says, often we heard homosexuals and others say that they wanted the government out of their bedroom. The cry is always tolerance at first, and then it leads to acceptance, and finally to the dominance of non-traditional relationships. Mm-hmm. It sounds ridiculous, but how could the state eventually demand that pastors could the state eventually demand that pastors not discriminate against any couple seeking marriage? Is it possible that government-approved relationships will become a thing of the past?
Well, I think that concern that he's raised is a possibility. If you look at abortion, before it was people want to have a choice to get an abortion, and now doctors are losing their rights not to give them. Even if you have objections against abortion for moral reasons, legislation is pressing on them to say you must give an abortion even if you think it kills a human being. And so by parallel, I think the same thing could happen here. And we've seen worse scenarios play themselves out in other places, other countries where this has happened, so I think it's a legitimate fear.
Scott in Oakwood, Illinois has two questions. One, do Prop 8 protesters think that they're going to get anywhere by obscene and lewd demonstrations? How is this not shooting themselves in the foot?
Well, that's a great observation. You would hope that, first of all that they're doing is being covered by national media, which I don't have the confidence it is, but and that people who look at this would then draw the right conclusions about that group, and I don't have the confidence they always will do that either. So it may be shooting themselves in the foot, but it may turn out to have no impact in the negative at all on them. We'll see.
The second question from Scott in Oakwood, Illinois. If there were a nationwide law that legitimized same-sex marriage, what would be the gay lobby's next target? What would it mean for the civil liberties of those who speak out against homosexual behavior? What about religious freedom? About 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah, I think that's a very serious concern. All I have to do is look at states like Massachusetts, who for a number of years now have had same-sex marriages, and to see what the laws are doing now to impose this on schools and teaching your kids and how you can't intercede. And then pretty soon it's going to be, if you don't do what the law says you do about this, then you're going to get jailed. And I think that's a serious impediment to free speech and free action there.
Greg Koukl is a regular guest, president of Stand to Reason, based in Signal Hill, California, co-author of the book Relativism, Feet Firmly Planted in Midair. Greg, thank you for being our guest.
Yeah, thanks for the time together with you, Todd. I look forward to the next time.
Folks, when you surf the web this weekend, go to issuesetc.org, click on demand, and check out the website for Greg Koukl and Stand to Reason. Greg Koukl and Stand to Reason at our website, issuesetc.org.